In the summer of 2008, the city of Orlando, Florida, was rapidly growing a metropolitan area for tourism, hospitality, and steady influx of new residents. Beneath the backdrop of this theme park and suburban neighborhood, every family life unfolded, much like anywhere else in the United States. It was within one such urban home and the community of Orange County the case emerged that would be one of the most widely publicized criminal trials in the modern American history. Caylee Anthony was born in 1986 to George and Cindy Anthony. She grew up in Orlando and was described by her acquaintances as social and outgoing. In 2005, at the age of 19, she gave birth to a daughter, Caylee Anthony. Caylee lived primarily with Cassie in the Anthony's family home, along with her maternal grandparents. George Anthony had previously worked as a law enforcement officer, and Cindy Anthony was employed in healthcare field. By most outward appearance, the family life followed a routine pattern to work, shared care, extended family interactions. In the early June 2008, 2-year-old Caylee Anthony was last seen alive. According to later testimony, June 16, 2008 became a focal date in the timeline. On the day, Caylee Anthony left Anthony home with Caylee. Over the next several weeks, Cassie did not report her daughter missing. Instead, she maintained her family and Caylee was babysitting by a nanny called Zenediad Fernandez Gonzalez, often referred as Zenny the nanny. Investigators would later determine that no valid record existing of a nanny by the name connected to Caylee's care. On July 15, 2008, more than a month after Caylee was last seen, Cindy Anthony had called 911 to report her granddaughter was missing and had been gone for 31 days. During that call, Cindy expressed alarm about the situation and mentioned detecting an odor in the car seat vehicle that was described as resembling decomposition. The call marked the beginning of a formal law enforcement investigation. When officers from Orange County Sheriff Office began to interview Caylee Anthony, they encountered inconsistency in her statement. She told investigators that Caylee had been kidnapped by the nanny and that she has been conducting her own search in effort to locate her daughter. Casey also claimed to be employed at the Universal Studio. The detective later escorted her to the Universal Studio property, where she admitted that she was not employed there, contradicting her earlier statement. As the investigation unfolded, Caylee Anthony was arrested on July 16, 2008 on charges related to child neglect, making false statements to law enforcement, and obstruction. At this stage, Caylee had not been located. The focus maintained on finding the child and clarifying the timeline of events. Law enforcement examined Cassie's Pontiac Sunfire, which had been impounded after being abandoned in the park. Testimony during the later trial would focus heavily on the trunk of this vehicle. Investigators reported detecting a strong odor, discovered a trash bag containing paper towel and other refuse. Forensic analysis was conducted to determine whether the human decomposition had occurred in the trunk. An FBI laboratory analyst later testified that the air sample collected from the trunk contained a chemical component consistent with human decomposition. The defense challenged the reliability and the interpretation of this finding. In December 2008, skeletal remains discovered in the wood area less than half a mile from Anthony's family home. The remains were later identified as that of Caylee Anthony. The discovery shifted from a missing person investigation to homicide inquiry. Shortly thereafter, Caylee Anthony was indicted by the grand jury on the charges including first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, aggravated manslaughter of child, and providing false information to law enforcement. The prosecution theory evolved over time but ultimately centered on allegations that Caylee Anthony intentionally killed her daughter. During the trial, which began in May 2011 in the 9th Judicial Circuit Court of Florida, prosecutors argued that Caylee had been suffocated with chloroform and duct tape and had been placed over her mouth and nose. The present evidence of internet search found on her computer in Anthony's home for them including chloroform and neck breaking. The prosecution contended that the search demonstrated planning and premeditation. Forensic evidence confirmed a central component of the state case. An expert witness testified the hair discovered from the trunk of Casey was characteristics consistent with postmodern banding, a feature consistent with sometimes associated with the hair from the deceased individual. The prosecution also emphasized the presence of a duct tape found near Casey's remains, arguing that it had been used as part of the homicide. Additional testimony addressed the use of chloroform as a potential role, although no definitive toxicology reports could confirm the chloroform in Casey's remains due to advanced decomposition state. The prosecution further pointed that Caylee Anthony's behavior in the last 31 days between Caylee's disappearance and the reporting of her missing status. During this period, she was observed socializing, getting a tattoo, reading Bella Vita, meaning beautiful life, and participating in activities the prosecution characterized as inconsistent with a mother searching for her missing child. The state argued that the pattern of this behavior indicted consciousness of guilt. The defense, led by Anthony Jalbez, presented a marked defense narrative. In opening statement, the defense contended that Caylee Anthony had accidentally drowned in the family swimming pool on 16th of June 2008. According to the account, George discovered the family body, the child's body, and fearing legal and personal consequence, participated in covering up the accidental death. The defense argued that Caylee Anthony's pattern of lying was rooted in long-standing family dysfunction and desire to avoid confrontation rather than evidence of homicide. Throughout the trial, the defense challenged the scientific basis of the prosecution forensic evidence. They questioned the methodology used in the hair sample analysis from the trunk and raised doubts about reliability of postmodern hair banding as definitive indicator. The defense also emphasized the lack of physical evidence trying Caylee Anthony on that specific act of murder. They note that the cause of death had been ruled undetermined by medical examiners due to the condition of the remains. The court proceedings lasted several weeks and included testimony from dozens of witnesses, including forensic experts, law enforcement officers, family members, and acquaintances. The case was broadcast live and receiving extensive national and international media coverage. Legal analysts debated the strength of the circumstantial evidence and challenges of providing premeditated beyond a reasonable doubt. Media coverage played a significant role in shaping the public awareness of the case. Major network and news cable channels provided daily updates and commentary often focused on Caylee Anthony's demeanor in the court and her conduct before and after Caylee's disappearance. The case generated substantial public discussion. This may be observed as forming strong and opinions that was being occurred. However, within the courtroom jurors and instructed buyers based on solely evidence and presented by the law and by the judge. After closing arguments in early July 2011, the jury began to deliberate. A panel consistent with 12 jurors had also been subsequented with the duration of trial to limit the exposure of media coverage. On July 5th, 2011, the jury returned its verdict. Caylee Anthony was found not guilty of first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, and aggravated manslaughter of a child. She was found guilty of 4 counts of providing false information to law enforcement. The verdict prompted an intermediate and widespread public reaction. Outside the court and across the country, response ranged from surprise to anger. Many commentators noted the apparent disconnect between public opinion and jury decision. Legal experts emphasize that the standard in a criminal trial is a proof beyond reasonable doubt that the circumstance evidence had met the threshold to support a conviction. At subsequent sentence hearing, Caylee Anthony received a sentence of 4 years in jail for the false statement conviction. Another with fine because she had already served nearly 3 years in custody waiting trial and received credit for the time served, as well as reduction of good behavior. She was released from jail 2011, July 17. In the following years, the trial and the case continued to be a subject of documentary, interviews, and legal analysis. Judge later spoke publicly about the decision, explaining that they did not find the prosecution evidence sufficient to eliminate a reasonable doubt regarding the cause of Caylee's disappearance and demise. The legal proceedings concluded with acquittal on most serious charges, standing as final judgment. The case of Caylee Anthony remains a reference point in discussion about the role of forensic science in the court, the impact of media saturation on public conception, and the challenges prosecutors face while relying primarily on the circumstantial evidence. It also highlights the structure of American criminal justice system, in which juries tasked with weighing evidence impartially and applying the standard to prove beyond reasonable doubt. Reflecting, if you're interested in stories like this, click the like button, subscribe, and share to get more stories like this. Thank you.